When Yeshua HaMashiach steps into the land, the long story of the two cities reaches its turning point. Zion stands rebuilt with stone courts, priests, scrolls, and feasts. Yet beneath its visible strength lies a hidden rise of Babylon, no longer the Tower of Shinar, but a fence of rulings, interpretations stacked like bricks, human authority piled upon Yahweh's commands. The people walk streets that bear Yahweh's name. Still the air carries the scent of something foreign. Crooked paths disguised as holiness, heavy yokes laid across weary shoulders, gatekeepers guarding the house while blocking the way to Yahweh himself. Yeshua does not enter this city as one more scribe in the chain. He comes as the King of Zion, walking roads of dirt, sitting by wells, standing in synagogues, teaching on mountainsides, calling the people back to the covenant path their fathers walked. His voice bears the weight that once carved letters into stone at Sinai and filled Solomon's house with smoke and fire. His steps pressed into the same soil where David danced before the ark. And everywhere he walks, the two cities, Zion and Babylon, stand exposed. He ascends a mountain, not a tower. There, surrounded by fishermen, farmers, mothers, and shepherds, he restores Yahweh's boundary stones the way a craftsman resets a fallen marker at the edge of a field. He speaks of salt losing its taste, lamps hidden under baskets, houses built on rock or sand, trees known by their fruit, narrow gates and broad roads. Each image cuts through the scribal Babylon that had grown like thorns around the commandments. You have heard, but I say to you, is not rebellion against Torah but rescue, lifting Yahweh's voice out from under layers of human rulings. The King of Zion stands on his mountain and exposes the counterfeit mountain rising in the city below. He turns to the crowds, bent beneath the crushing weight of traditions, and speaks of yokes. A crooked yoke wounds the neck, a splintered beam rubs the skin raw. But his yoke is straight, smooth, level, shaped by the carpenter king whose authority brings life instead of burden. He warns of wolves cloaked in sheep's wool, of leaven spread silently through dough, of vipers hiding in the stones by the roadside. He speaks of orchards, roots, axes, and fire. The people know these images. They walk past fig trees each morning, press olives at harvest, and prune branches in season. Through these earthy signs, he unmasks leaders who appear righteous, yet devour Yahweh's flock in secret. He enters the house and finds merchants where prayers should be. Tables overturn. Coins scatter across the pavement. Doves beat their wings against the rising dust. A whip of cords cracks like thunder in the outer court. The king has come to reclaim his father's house. The palace of Yahweh has become a den for thieves. Yeshua drives them out, restoring the ground to the purpose Yahweh intended since Solomon's day. He curses a fig tree on the road outside the city, its leaves boasting of fruit it does not bear. It withers by the next morning, a living parable of a city whose leaders offer the appearance of righteousness without the harvest of justice. He tells of a vineyard, hedged, towered, and planted by a master who sends servant after servant to gather fruit. Each servant returns wounded or not at all. Finally, the sun comes and the tenants kill him, casting him outside the vineyard. Every listener knows the vineyard is Israel, the tenants her rulers, the servants the prophets, and the son the king standing before them. He asks for a coin and holds it to the light. Caesar's image glints on the metal. Give to Caesar the things that bear Caesar's image, he says, and to Yahweh the things that bear his. With that simple act, he restores the true line of allegiance, placing the image-bearers of Yahweh under the authority of Yahweh alone. Every day, his words peel back the plaster on the city's painted tombs. The rulers polish the outside of the cup. Inside lies rot. They guard the gates while blocking the way. They swear by the gold of the temple, but ignore the one who dwells there. They honor the prophets who died long ago, yet resist the one the prophets foretold. Yeshua lays an axe to the root of this hidden Babylon. He exposes each crooked beam, each false boundary, each counterfeit throne. When he calls himself the Good Shepherd, the true gate, the cornerstone the builders rejected, he is not speaking in metaphors but reclaiming the realities the rulers have seized. Only the shepherd who enters by Yahweh's decree carries true authority. Only the gate opened by Yahweh leads into life. Only the stone chosen by Yahweh can bear the weight of Zion restored. Yet the city does not receive her king. In the end, the rulers choose Caesar over Yahweh. The present Jerusalem aligns herself with the ancient city of rebellion. The shepherd is struck outside the gate, the cornerstone lifted on a tree. The vineyard's heirs casting out the sun. But Yahweh vindicates him. The rejected stone becomes the foundation of a new house. The buried seed rises with the strength of new creation. The shepherd gathers a flock not bound by the ruling structures of the old city, but drawn from Judea, Samaria, and the nations beyond. And his emissaries, Paul, Peter, James, John, the author of Hebrews, carry his restored covenant path outward, speaking in the same concrete imagery their master used. They speak of two Jerusalems, one enslaved, one free. Not two philosophies or moods, but two cities with two mothers, two mountains, two laws of belonging. Paul remembers Hagar and Sarah, Sinai and Zion, a present Jerusalem under Rome's chain, and a Jerusalem above built by Yahweh's promise. Belonging is not an inner state, it is citizenship under a real king, within a real household, awaiting a real inheritance. James calls the assemblies back to justice at the gate, to treat the poor with dignity, to let mercy triumph over judgment, to let works reveal allegiance like fruit reveals a tree's root. Peter speaks to sojourners walking through cities shaped by Babylon's pride, calling them living stones formed into a house that Yahweh himself is building. John sees lampstands flickering in the night, beasts rising from the sea, Babylon staggering with a cup of abominations, and finally a city descending. A Jerusalem built by Yahweh's own hand with gates of pearl, foundations of precious stone, and the tree of life rising at its center. Every apostolic voice returns to the same ancient contrast. One Jerusalem is ruled by human pride, bent by crooked rulings aligned with the nations. The other is ruled by Yeshua, straight in its paths, radiant with Yahweh's name, the mother city of those who walk the covenant way. One city bears chains, the other bears freedom. One city bends the boundary stones, the other restores them. One city rejects the king, the other is formed around his risen life. And so, part 4 ends where the prophets always said it would, with a restored king enthroned at the right hand of Yahweh, awaiting the day he will weigh both cities, one built on the solid boundary stones he set, the other stacked with human bricks like Babylon's tower of old. The stage now turns toward the final unveiling. Babylon the mother rises from the shadows, gathering kings and merchants into her web, lifting her cup to the nations. But Zion's king stands ready, the plumb line in his hand, the gates of his true city prepared. Revelation will gather every strand of this story and bring the two cities to their final clash.